I love working with people who are teenagers and younger, but it's still the same principle, which is they have to want it and it has to
Right.
be their, free will to do it. So people can write to you all day and say, I want this person to be treated, but that is never going to be the determining factor. So it's super important, even if it's a kid, to go with the same process, which is I do a discovery call. If it's a child, that you're either present with them or come into the call later. With a teen, usually they can handle it on their own, and then the parent can ask questions. So it's two different meetings. And by the way, this is why teens and kids are more more work actually, because you have to speak to the family as well. So
Okay.
you have to think about that when you're,
Yeah, I've
speaking
never
about
never
your
had that before. But and I do use the analogy of you can't send your husband in to quit smoking. If he doesn't want to quit smoking, I can't make him quit smoking, right? So
I mean, I think with younger people, it tends to be a bit shorter visits. Like teens, I think max out for me at like between 75 and 90 minutes.
hmm.
And little kids, like 45 minutes is usually enough. So it's the same process, but to me, it's like more meetings at shorter intervals.
Same process, even like with 7-year-olds, same questions.
I mean, it's all diluted,
Hmm.
like it's slower and they do more storytelling and it's more imaginary, it tends to be. But I mean, I think everyone has heard my famous story of the 7-year-old who healed themselves, right? Like they came to the discovery call. We talked about what's the purpose? What do you want to get out of this? What's my role? It was a boy. He asked a few minor questions. We got excited, him and his mom. He comes to the first session. It was like 30 minutes. I also have this problem. I also have this problem. I also have this problem. He was pretty honest about it wasn't just the thing we started with. I have all these things. At some point, he got tired. He started showing me around his room. We left it. Session two. This is just such a wild story. I'm never going to forget it as long as I live. I turn on the screen and there he is. And I say, so what's the problem? And he says, what problem? And I say, well, all the ones we talked about, which was started with fear of heights, it was actually fear of the dark that started it. Then it turned into fear of heights. Then it turned into fear of crowds. And I said, well, all those ones. And he was like, they're gone. Like I went to the top of a thing to slide down the other day and I went out to the mall and it was fine. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, where did they all go? And he was like, well, that's what you said was going to happen. That's
Oh, don't
exact.
you love that?
It was so good. It was like, what? It was amazing. But so I'm just saying, like, yeah,
wow.
that's the same process. He,
So he's just that child that is so honest that that
yep,
same thing's happening to adults in the
yep.
out of the
And he
mouth of
and he
babes.
was so easily primed and he was so needing and wanting his mom to help him that it worked. It
Okay,
worked
so why aren't we
perfect. It worked
teaching this to
perfect.
parents? I mean, come on, there's so many poor little children that are suffering
I
inside,
know.
that don't even know how to express it.
I
Oh,
know.
oh,
But I
that
mean,
breaks your heart.
just to give that little kid credit and, his mom as well. Like I learned some, they taught me. That
Yeah,
was for me. That
yeah,
was not the opposite way. Like he healed himself. Like that's the point of of conversational hypnosis.
right.
He just knew what he wanted.
And it just goes back to that we've all been programmed somehow.
Yep.
Somehow you got these programs. So how do we get out of the programming?
And I've also had other kids who I've seen like 6 and 7 times, and it took them a while.
Interesting.
So I'm not at all saying that, it's just like adults. Some of them, it takes 30 minutes and some of them take two
Right,
visits and whatever. It's the same.
right.
But I
Interesting.
mean, don't prejudge it and don't decide for them. Just follow. It's the same as everything else. It's entrainment. It's following them. I mean, children are usually sitting in their room when they're having the visit, so you have a whole tapestry of things that all their toys are there, all their books are there, all of their,
That means
things.
I'd have to do it over Zoom. I told you, I do it on the phone. So
Right. So, but still, I'm just saying you
yeah,
have like a whole library of
yeah.
things that they like and that are familiar to them. So there's a lot of things to like one time I had a kid who was an overeater who his obsession was the usual video games. So he became the video game, like the hypnosis was him experiencing his own obsession, but in a corrective way. So I
Right.
just follow them just the same as anybody else. But like, yeah, is it way slower? Yeah. Is it sometimes way boringer? Sometimes you're like, okay, we've been in Candyland for fucking 45 minutes now. Like, let's do something else. But
Yeah.
whatever. They're
No,
gonna
it'll be
do it.
interesting. Yeah. And I
They
actually
do
have
it the way
never
they're gonna do
had somebody coming in with rape that currently, that it just happened, I guess. So um most of them have been, when they were little girls and now they're 40 or 50-year-old women, that type of thing. But
I
it'll
mean,
be
sometimes when it's like really, really recent, I have never done a rape case, but some discrete trauma, sometimes I use that rewind technique.
oh, I love rewind. That
I
was
just
my
like it.
go
It's
before.
quick and it has a lot of power and it works
Yeah,
well inside of conversational. So I think that's an easy one to
yeah,
integrate
yeah. Okay.
and helpful.
Yeah.
But
So
I mean, my main clinical, standard is to start always conversational because as we all know, like the last thing you want is a dirty trance. The last thing you want is for somebody to go somewhere like in rewind or close their eyes or whatever and not be ready for it. So I always start with conversational to
yeah.
like
If I've
find
ever
out
used it,
where
it's
they
always been,
are.
yeah, it's always been inside somewhere.
Yeah.
So let's,
Clear the
try it.
debris first, like
Yeah.
check, create
Yeah.
rapport. To me, that's super important.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I've done it with guided meditation as well, because
Yeah,
that's a mixture of hypnosis and
exactly.
meditation, basically. So, and again, just follow the client where they are,
Totally.
what they need, so, yep,
Once in a while, I have somebody request traditional or like, when are we going to do the closed eyes? And so I just explain myself very clearly, which is what I just said to you. I say to them, I don't want to go somewhere or travel or take you somewhere and not knowing how you really feel. So I'm
hmm.
first establishing that, and then we can make choices on those adventures together.
It's interesting. Nobody's ever asked me. I think because I explain how different
Right.
conversational hypnosis
But I
is.
think some
Not
people
going to,
just assume hypnosis is going to be
yeah,
whatever it is they picture in their head.
yeah,
And I'm not shy about it. I mean, and I'm not, there's nothing wrong with traditional hypnosis. It's just that if you apply it haphazardly or without any
right.
plan, then you're kind of guessing with the wind. But if you know the client and you know why you're doing it, there's a lot of benefit, I think.
Yeah, no, I just never have, just because like I say, it's more that I tell them, but this is much faster.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. I mean, again, we're back to MOS. Like, it's just about automating the whole process. Why would I do something long-winded when I can do something short-winded? But if I'm done with what's short-winded and it worked, and now the client has other ideas, requests,
Yeah,
whatever, well, I'm still a human being. We can talk about it.
right,
I mean, I
right,
had a doctor, an MD. He came for driving anxiety. Okay, well, the driving anxiety subsided, but that opened up his mind to his whole retirement and his whole future. Like obviously the limits had something to do with each other.
right,
Okay, so then he gets to the end of that and he's been a lifelong MD and he's run clinics and he's got plaques all over town. And he's like, I just want to close my eyes and see my future. Okay, well, let's do that then. Like I got no problems with that. But he
right.
had a lot of things to do first.
Interesting. Yeah.
But then came the chill out, and that took him to other chill outs, which, he's reported back to me on for the last year.
Have you ever considered, or is part of your second phase, I guess you want to call it, somebody the problem is cleared and they want to go on with the
Yeah,
coaching, or
yeah,
it brings into mind the people with PTSD. They
definitely.
have not had a life for so long, they don't even know
Yep.
where to start, so
Well,
it's
as
almost
you know, I do sell products. So I sell like a whole nutritional line. And I
right,
would say like 30-40% of my clients buy it because this is all happening behind the scenes that you guys don't see on social
right,
media. But that's exactly what happens. That client says to me, oh, I feel so much better now, like, oh, my chemotherapy is done, or oh, my,
right,
weight loss journey is going great. How do you stay so blah, 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 blah. And then I say, hey, there's a link on my Calendly where you can book in to consult with me on that. And then they come in and I put them on my system. So I have a back end product already,
Or
and I do have a coaching product that like the students use sometimes. So like I've had people join my incubator, they go through this or my training, and then they want to just coach so they can go with it. So there is a phase two for sure.
Okay,
You should
because
have
I've
a
been
phase two as
considering
well.
that's just, these people that their life has changed and
Definitely.
now they need to almost restart. And where do they
Exactly.
start? And, but I have never offered that before. So
Why not? You could.
and that could
I
be
mean,
that year program or 6 month program or
I
something.
also, in my initial email, when I first, reach out to the client after they have had a discovery call, there are two products on the offering. One is the transformation, I call it the breakthrough, and one is the breakthrough over a year. So it's
Oh,
kind of like,
interesting.
well, and it's modeled after Starbucks, which, Starbucks sells mostly $10 and under products, but like once every month they sell the coffee maker, which is $1,000. But you don't go to Starbucks to buy that, but once in a while, some tourist or whatever buys it. So I have a product like that too. So
Hmm.
like last year I sold three of them. Okay, well that's 5 grand instead of 2,500, which is $7,500 more than I would have made had I only had the one product.
Can I ask how you structure that? Is it once a month? How do
Yeah,
you?
it's once a month. It's 9 visits, so once a month over a year, but with 3 months missing. So I usually skip Christmas month. Usually people travel in the summer, they skip a month then.
And it's a traditional coaching call pretty much.
No, it's the same idea, but it has more time and more opportunity in it. I mean, like
Okay,
that's where I integrate maybe a traditional session, maybe a rewind session. I mean, I have a lot of knowledge about,
right,
traditional. I can do fantasy ones, I can do, script-based ones. I mean, you can infinitely innovate on a client, but you have to know them first. You have to do ACH with them first.
right.
And some of them are analytical and all they need, like I'm one of them, Karen. I could do ACH every fucking week for my whole life and keep on benefiting as I have done. I've done like what, 50 sessions by now? I've done a lot.
On yourself?
No, I mean with
Oh,
practice,
no, no,
client.
I mean
Yeah,
for
yeah, for
you
myself.
being the
Yeah.
client.
Mhm. I
I
mean,
think
just
I've
in
done it
public,
too.
I've just in public as a example, I've done at least a half a dozen.
I
So like
didn't
we
know
know
that.
that I've done a lot. Maybe 50 is too many, but dozens.
No, I did not know that. I just thought it was I think that I saw one or two on,
Well, I've done those. I've traded with my colleagues. I've done some practice ones just to help others. I mean, I've done some because I've had problems that I needed, and some have gone bad. I mean, I'm not going to say it's universally been positive. Like I've made some huge life mistakes based on bad sessions. And you know
wow.
why I'm sharing that? Because I know how powerful this product is because I've suffered with it as much as I've benefited. And I'm
Wow.
not going to lie about that. Like, that's the truth. If somebody is really not doing this authentically in a good way, it does not go well.
Hmm.
So I think it's important. Like, I see the things that have gotten fucked in my life from practicing with this as part of my dues that I've had to pay.